Thank you.
Thank you.
Brent Gleeson.
Thank you, guys.
What a thrill. What a thrill.
This is great. Usually I'm the keynote speaker running around like a crazy person. I get to sit in a comfy chair.
No. I'll tell you what. You've done something amazing. I know you've done tours in Iraq and Africa, and now you've tried to figure out now what do I do? How do I take those lessons learned? And it's extremely impressive. So I just want to ask you a few questions about your experience and what that's like. So first of all, let's just start here. SEAL. What does that stand for?
It stands for Sea, Air, and Land. It's one of our hundreds, if not thousands, of acronyms we have in the United States military.
There's an acronym for everything in the United States military, right there. When did you first get the bug? How did you start thinking this is what I want to do, and then how does one become a Navy SEAL?
It's kind of a funny story because a lot of people assume that this is something I'd wanted to do since childhood. But I grew up in Dallas. Where are my Texans in the room?
There you go, Texans.
The great nation, people.
Yeah.
I grew up in Dallas and did my undergrad at SMU.
Yeah.
With degrees in finance and economics. And so upon graduation, I took a job as a financial analyst with Trammell Crow Company. I had an interest in either home building or commercial real estate and investment development. But at the same time, I had a fraternity brother who was now then a senior after I had graduated. And he was one of those guys who wanted to be a SEAL his whole life, which of course I thought was a highly unrealistic career path.
Yeah.
But I was like, good luck with that.
Right, sure.
But as a way to stay fit and help him prepare for an arduous journey, we started to train together.
Yeah.
And so nights and weekends, and having a lot of dialogue about what this journey would mean for him. And obviously I became somewhat intrigued, so I picked up a couple books, and then I read another book and became fascinated by the history, the culture, what it could potentially mean to serve in that capacity. At that elite level. And so one day I told my parents, hey guys, I'm quitting my job and I'm enlisting in the Navy.
Yeah.
And my dad's hair went white that day.
Right, yeah.
Thanks for paying for 4 years of college.
Exactly, that's right, yeah. But at that point then, you enlisted in the Navy thinking, I'm not just enlisting in the Navy, I'm enlisting in the Navy to be a Navy SEAL.
It's the only thing I wanted to do.
Yeah. I think for the layperson like us, we look at it and we say, y'all are a little wacko. You're not right in the head.
Do you guys agree? My wife does.
No, listen, in a good way.
No,
but it's one of those things where you can't kind of want to be a Navy SEAL.
Well, it's an interesting topic because we've actually in Naval Special Warfare invested millions and millions of dollars to try and identify the cognitive, mental, and physical makeup of students that are more likely to make it.
Yeah.
Because we graduate only 10% of each class.
Yeah.
And it's a 90% failure rate.
Right. And these are
think about it as a sales funnel, people.
Right.
We need better leads in the top of the funnel because we still only close 10% of the deals.
Right. Yeah. And that's of the people who already think that they. These are other people who think they want to be SEAL. They think they have what it takes.
Everybody there has
pass the entrance in order to get there in the first place.
Everybody has a decent amount of desire, but desire is not enough.
What caused people to drop out? If only 10% graduated, what caused them to drop out?
Well, this will shock you, but most people don't like being second stage hypothermic 24/7.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, some people get injured, but most people quit early on. I mean, it's the training pipeline's 18 months.
Yeah.
You'll whittle a class of 250 down to about 25 or 30 in the first month.
Yeah. So it's my understanding is that it's physically and unbelievably grueling, and then after a while, because the body and the mind are connected together, the physical toll starts playing tricks on the mind after.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, people always. You get it, and I know all you guys do too. People think, well, is it more physical? Is it more mental? Those things are obviously very intimately connected.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's basically, we go by what we call a rule of 40%. And there's cognitive research that shows this, but when your brain is telling you based on pain or fatigue that you're done, you can go no further. You've only gone 40% of what your body can do. And those that can push beyond that 40% are the ones, obviously, that can make it through the initial stages and Hell Week and those first 3 weeks where you weed everybody out.
Right. So if I'm lying on the couch and I'm like, I want to change the channel, but the remote is all the way over there, you're saying I have it in me. I could do it. Okay. All right.
You may not achieve that goal, but
I'm glad I'm here.
Like I said, desire is not enough.
That's right, exactly. Did you ever doubt? Did you ever wonder if you were going to be one of the ones who was going to get the axe here?
I get asked that a lot, and I mentor young guys into the program too, and they're always, what's the hardest part?
Yeah.
When did you feel like quitting? And I never considered, and this isn't trying to sound macho, I never considered quitting ever. But there are definitely times, pretty much every minute of every day, where you, especially in those early weeks, let's take Hell Week, for example. Hell Week is the brutal crucible that all SEALs share, but few pass. It's the third week of training. It's designed essentially to weed people that do not have the passion and the vision to be there. And it's you don't sleep for an entire week. You run the equivalent of multiple marathons while wet and sandy, brutal beatings, and it's just constant movement. I finished the whole week with a broken elbow, joint problems, and cellulitis. I had a buddy who finished with 2 broken shins, but people just keep their mouth shut so they don't get rolled back and have to do it again.
Sure.
It's a wise strategy.
Yeah.
But that first night of Hell Week, you cannot even see the light at the end of the tunnel. Not even a glimmer. And it's that moment where you realize that it's going to be one of the worst weeks of your entire life.
Yeah. When you were in that moment, was it the victory? Was it the goal to say, man, how much better of a human being am I going to be? Did that motivate you, or was it just stay alive, dude, stay alive?
You learn to compartmentalize to a certain degree. Obviously, if you try to focus too much on the long-term vision, you will be consumed with stress, because there's so many evolutions you have to pass, both physically and academically, just to make it through the program, that you really have to compartmentalize. And some people do it, you have a weekly goal, you have a daily goal, and you have a evolution goal. Make it to breakfast, make it to lunch, make it to dinner. That's your day. That's all you focus on.
That sounds right? That's a typical day for most of the people in this room. All right, so you finish that process. Now you're into the Navy SEALs. Now you're into the point where you're mission training, you're working with other people, and now it's a whole nother level, because your education is not over by any stretch of the imagination.
It's just beginning.
It's just beginning. And now you're trying to figure out tactically, how are we going to do this? Was it overwhelming? Did the fun go away at any point?
Well, it was an interesting journey for me based on the timing, because I went in right before 9/11. So my class, we had started with 250, we graduated 23, and then you start with BUDS, which is the first 6 months, then you go on to advanced training. Literally 2 days before we started advanced training was 9/11. So it was a total structural and cultural and mindset transformation that everybody went through, that changed basically the entire mission profile and approach to how we do our work.
Sure.
So.
And it became real.
It became real.
I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but did you sort of feel like they didn't just attack the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, they sort of attacked me? Did you take that personally?
Everybody takes extreme ownership over their role. And that, we're talking about the philosophy of accountability and discipline in the military and business and sales. And it's part of our culture. That's a point I want to make about this topic when it's in a business organization. Like your points earlier, you can't just tell someone to work harder or tell someone to be better. It also has to be part of the culture and mindset of the organization as a whole, which is, and they teach that in day one of SEAL training. And it goes, as we say, our training is never complete. Accountability and discipline are the 2 most fundamental cultural pillars of the organization.
Sure. Yeah. When you looked at the accountability piece, there's, we tend to think of accountability as if there's somebody, lording over us with a rod in their hand, but there had to be a tremendous amount of team accountability. You had to know what they were doing. They had to know what you were doing. It's the stuff that movies are made of, but I have a sense it's probably very, very real. Well,
our accountability philosophy and leadership philosophy is leadership at all levels. It is not a command and control structure. We have a very flat management structure in special operations. And everybody's taught to be a leader, and everybody has accountability and personal discipline. If you don't make it through the first month of training, or you'll be weeded out by your peers. The point I wanted to make is, throughout the 18-month training process, we have a weekly peer review process. It's like an anonymous 360 review. It's called the top 5, bottom 5, and every Friday afternoon you list the top 5 performers you believe in the class, and you list the bottom 5. And the instructors weigh that data heavily against theirs, and every single Friday, the name most frequently listed in the bottom 5 is immediately ejected from training. No appealing to the empathy of the human resources department, because we don't have a freaking human resources department in SEAL training. I was complained about that. Who do I cry to? This sucks.
Well, especially given all that they poured into it up to that point. I mean, they're already in this elite class, and now they're getting shown the door. But I assume, though, that helped you to sort of raise your confidence in the people that were still there, of knowing that we're only going to have, we already have the best, now we're going to have the best of the best.
Absolutely, because you're taught to hold yourself accountable and to the highest standard, and hold your peers accountable, which actually, and that's, you mentioned this earlier, but accountability sometimes has a negative connotation, but when it's the bedrock of a culture, people are happier, morale is higher, productivity is higher, profitability is higher, the whole organization functions in a high-performance team mentality.
When you were going out on a mission, obviously you have to have your role down solid. How much did you need to know about everybody else's role on the team?
Intimately, because if that person gets killed or goes down or gets injured, somebody else has to pick it up. Now, that you might not necessarily, through a 2-year platoon cycle, you have 18 months of training, including professional development. So you're going to every school, from sniper school to free fall school to learning Korean and Arabic to fixing boat motors.
Yeah.
Could be anything. But you may not be a formally trained sniper, but you know how to use that sniper rifle.
Right.
I might not have gone to breacher school, but I know how to use the explosive breaching charges. So everybody has an intimate understanding of their role, because when you're on target, one of my favorite quotes is, this applies to business too, but no plan survives first contact with the enemy. It's equally important in combat as it is in business, and the plan goes to shit every time you get on target.
Yeah.
And
Right.
every single time, so you have to have a long list of contingency plans, because we say you have to move, shoot, and communicate. So it's very dynamic, it's very fluid, so everybody has to understand everybody else's role.
Right.
And how it relates to mission success.
Yeah. Now, 9/11 happens, and now you're moved through the system very, very quickly. Now you're in a hot war, right? Now this isn't theory. This isn't, well, someday. This is all going to happen right here. Did it really challenge even the way that you looked at life? I mean, we all have those moments that really define us, right? When my daughter was 2 years old, she had a very serious brain injury. It helped me so much to appreciate my children. And she's great. She turned out great, but there was touch and go there for a while.
Yep.
And so it really changed who I am. Did you find that was that same thing? You went into a mission, you came out of a mission. Did it just sort of get you to appreciate life that much more?
Oh, absolutely, and it puts everything obviously into perspective. And when you're in combat areas like that, you're going on target to find 1, 2, 3, 5 terrorists, and then there's 3 generations of families on target too. So you also have to be an empathetic warrior. And there'd be times where I'd be in a gunfight for 2 minutes, and then next thing you know, my rifle's slung, and I'm carrying 2 4-year-old girls across the room because there's glass everywhere from the explosive charge, and they're barefoot.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to dial down the intensity. And situations like that. So you carry that burden with you, but that's part of the sacrifice and service. So.
Absolutely. When you think about this idea of adapt, improvise, overcome, talk about that just a little bit, because like you said, the mission is all laid out, right? It's on a board. It's perfect. Right. This is exactly how it's going to go down. Somehow it doesn't always happen that way.
But that's why the after-action review is so critical.
Yeah.
The key learnings and takeaways.
Right.
I'll explain it in one example. In our very first, my task unit from SEAL Team 5 was the very first 30-man SEAL task unit in Iraq in April 2003. So we were essentially rewriting the book on urban combat, close quarters combat, and capture or kill missions, because nobody had done it. We'd been at peacetime. The very first, we'd been there a week, the very first gunfight we got into, we go into this neighborhood, and the breacher sets the explosive charge on the door, blow the door, filter through the house. Nobody's there. We're on the 3rd floor. Call comes over comms. You're in the wrong house. Bad intel leads to bad situations, people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Adapt, overcome.
Yeah, right.
So we're like, oh shit. And then the source, who was in the Suburban with the CIA, had an epiphany. Said, oh, sorry guys, it's not that house. It's this one 2 houses down.
Yeah.
So now we had just used a 1-pound block of C4 to blow open the door. The entire neighborhood knows you're there. Everybody's awake. The bad guys are in their house, putting themselves in barricaded positions, getting ready for you to come in. We go to the second house, put the explosive charge. Failed breach. Failed breach means the explosive charge doesn't blow the door all the way. Kidding me?
Yeah.
So there's a metal door behind the main door. Also,
and now you're totally exposed.
You're totally exposed. So everybody's like looking for threats.
Yeah.
I have to, being the new guy, you carry the heavy crap. So in addition to my 70 pounds of gear and weapons, I'm carrying a 35-pound metal cutting saw on my back. So we cut through the door. We get in there, and obviously, a gunfight ensues. Our corpsman, the combat medic, is the first guy to get shot. He's the one who's not supposed to get shot.
Sure. Yeah.
It's that he got shot in the helmet. He did not die or get injured. We actually thought he fell down. It wasn't until this is from about, when I say close quarters combat, we're in a fight in a stairwell. So 2 fighters with AK-47s in an elevated position from 10 feet away.
Yeah.
He got shot right through his night vision goggles, fell down the stairs, and we thought he was done, and then popped right back up. And it wasn't until the next day that he was preparing his gear for a mission we had the following night that he looked at his helmet. There was a bullet hole right through the base of his night vision goggles.
How about that? I've been shot,
Half an inch above the lip. Again, adapt, overcome, but it's you cannot have that in a business or a combat or in sports unless the team has the resources and training to be able to do that. Like we can't have agile teams in business and adaptive cultures in an organization if the team isn't well trained and doesn't have the autonomy to make decisions and don't have the resources.
Sure. There's another side of this, though, and that is that if you said you're going to do an after-action review, right? You're going to sit down and say what worked, what didn't, how we're going to be more effective next time. And I assume at that point that there's the opportunity to, if necessary, get in the face of somebody who did not do their job. Did that happen?
It does a bit, but part of our culture too, we have a very fast learning culture and a culture of transparent communication. So our AAR is one of our cultural rituals that helps define that part of our culture.
Yeah.
So we at least try, and I encourage all of you to try this with your teams, to leave rank and emotion at the door. You come together as equals, regardless if you're the commanding officer or the newest of new people, to have an open, transparent conversation about what went right, what went wrong, how are we going to learn from this to do it better next time. Now, afterwards, you might get punched in the face. But in the room, you leave rank and emotion at the door.
Right,
So,
yeah.
duct tape is usually involved too. I'll spare you the details.
Was it a difficult transition from a Navy SEAL into the civilian life?
Not for me, no. And I was having a conversation with someone about this earlier. What I see predominantly with special operations personnel is just by nature of their mindset and how they approach life and work is they always have a plan. I mean, I see guys every now and then, somebody who comes out of the teams without a plan. Usually they're back in the teams in 6 months.
Right.
Because that's what they know. And you get sort of institutionalized because that's where your identity is. But most guys get out, with a plan. I took the GMAT before my last combat tour and started grad school. Ironically, I got a combined MBA and Masters of Science in Real Estate because I wanted to be a frickin' home builder, people. And then the global economy crashed. What was the deal with that? So instead of being a home builder, I learned so much about real estate development and finance that it scared the crap out of me. The risk
Welcome to our world.
So I started, the first company we started was a lead generation site for home builders. And then, of course, they blame us for the quality of the leads because their salespeople can't freaking close. These leads suck. It's our leads. Sorry. Anyways.
So you
guys know what I'm talking about.
But you had to jump back into civilian life, and then even as we found you, and then went through the preparation process for you to participate in this event, I was really impressed just from the stance that oftentimes we talk to people, they're like, hey, what time do you want us there? You're gonna have a check, right? And that's about the extent of their preparation. And you were like, let's talk about this. How's this gonna go down? I want to know this. I want to know about your organization. You got here early today. It's like I could almost feel that dedication to operational excellence has not left you at all in what you're doing now.
No, and it's something that becomes obviously so ingrained in you that whether it's the simplest task or something more complex, you do it perfectly. And Admiral McRaven's book, Make Your Bed. It's an analogy for how you train SEALs and how we in our lives who are accountable and disciplined. If you can't get the little things right, then how do you expect to take on more complex situations and goals in life? So get up every day, make your bed, and tackle challenges as they come. But that's where you see the most successful people out there in the world. They're very regimented in their routines and how they do things like that. And it's really, my philosophy is discipline really equals freedom and fulfillment, because that's when you can be disciplined in your life, not regimented like a robot, but disciplined in how you approach your life goals, your marriage, your parenting style. It opens up the door to so many other opportunities.
We're just about out of time, but I'm going to take a little risk here. I think you can handle it.
Let's do burpees, people.
Exactly. Help yourself.
Not me,
I'll be sitting right here, but help yourself.
I'm too old for that shit.
You're a Navy SEAL. You're not even a former Navy SEAL, right? Once it's in you, and you carry that with you. And
no, actually, that's not true. My wife reminds me every day, you're not a SEAL anymore. Please change the freaking diaper, take out the trash, and shut up.
Fair enough. Yeah, do it well.
And then I come to these things, I feel all cool, and then I get home, she's like, yep, change the diaper, take out the trash.
No, we need that. They keep us humble. But listen, you've had this incredible path, even before you were a Navy SEAL, to your time in the SEALs, to your active combat, and now with a very, very successful speaking career, working with professionals all around the world. But there's a solidness to you. There's a toughness. So I'm going to ask you the question on the other side of the scale. It's going to sound a little weird, but what touches your heart?
My children. Oh shit! That came on quick when you mentioned your daughter, because I think we talked about this. My daughter also had a birth defect. She's fine now, but people ask me, what's the hardest, one of the hardest things you've ever had to deal with? They assume that my answer is going to be some type of combat situation, which of course all that stuff is horrendous.
Sure.
But when you find that your child is in danger, potential of severe danger or a lifelong situation, and I write about it in the book, and I write about my daughter Parker Rose, and the last chapter is about resilience. But Yeah, I mean, it's family and especially children.
Yeah.
And it grounds me, but also in a way, not to get too deep, but it's healing because of the things that I've had to do in my previous career.
I get it. I'm going to tell you, you served your country well. You still serve your country well. We're proud to call you a fellow American. Brent Gleeson, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.